Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, good afternoon. A very, very warm welcome to everybody here who's joining us here in Singapore, as well as to you who's online around the world. Thank you so much for being part of this special occasion. Today marks the beginning of an exciting new chapter as we take this next step in bringing the global spirit of InnoTrans to a wider stage. For 3 decades, InnoTrans has stood as the world's leading platform for transport technology and mobility innovation. Now, we look outward and forward as that legacy takes on a new international dimension. To open our event, we invite you to experience the moment where vision becomes...
It has grown into the world's leading trade fair for transport technology. Today, InnoTrans is the world's largest marketplace for the rail industry. At InnoTrans, the industry's leading companies are the first to present their innovations to a trade show audience. Nowhere else can you find out earlier about the future of mobility. InnoTrans is one of the great success stories of Messe Berlin. And today, I'm proud to share with you our next bold step. We are bringing InnoTrans to Asia. From 7 to 9 September 2027, the inaugural InnoTrans Asia will take place at the Singapore Expo, creating a new central platform for the Asian mobility sector, one of the fastest growing and most dynamic regions in the world. This is more than just a new trade fair. It is a strategic bridge between markets, a bridge between the proven excellence of InnoTrans Berlin and the forward-thinking innovation of Asia's transport transformation. Asia is not just growing, it is evolving rapidly. The region is experiencing an unprecedented wave of urbanization. By 2050, nearly 3.5 billion people will live in Asia's cities. That growth demands smart, integrated, and sustainable transport solutions. And governments across Asia are rising to the challenge. China, for example, continues to expand its high-speed rail and urban transit networks. India is advancing metro projects like the 42-kilometer Jaipur Metro Phase 2. Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Singapore are investing billions in cross-border rails, subways, and regional connectivity. The numbers are staggering. The Asia-Pacific region is projected to need $43 trillion in transport infrastructure by 2035. InnoTrans Asia is our answer to this momentum. It is tailored specifically for this region, designed to connect people, innovations, and opportunities. So what can you expect? Much like our main event in Berlin, InnoTrans Asia will cover all key segments: railway technology, railway infrastructure, tunnel construction, public transport, and interiors. And just like in Berlin, our new event is built to serve the entire ecosystem. From transport companies and operators, manufacturers and suppliers of transport technology, construction companies, to policymakers, engineers, consultants, and researchers. Finally, unlike domestic trade fairs, InnoTrans Asia serves as a truly Asian trade fair, combining the various markets at one neutral place. But InnoTrans Asia goes even further. It offers direct access to decision makers from across Asia and the world, plus a compact, cost-efficient entry point to the Asian market. Valuable market insights, enabling you to tailor your products and strategies. A central hub in Asia for networking, learning, and forming long-term partnerships. And add to that the dynamic setting of Singapore, a gateway to Asia Pacific, and one of the most forward-thinking transport hubs in the world. And with all of that, you have a recipe for something truly impactful. InnoTrans Berlin will continue to be the global centerpiece of the industry. With InnoTrans Asia, we are creating a new event that is tailored to the needs of the Asia-Pacific market, located in the heart of Asia. This expansion reflects our mission to connect global innovation with local opportunity. And it aligns with the growing need for mobility solutions that are faster, greener, and smarter. I would now like to take this opportunity to thank our co-host, the Singapore Tourism Board. We are very grateful for your partnership, a partnership which in fact started in 2008 when we first joined forces and launched the travel and tourism trade show, ITB Asia. With InnoTrans Asia, we take the next bold step and bring the world of mobility to Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, Messe Berlin and Singapore Tourism Board invite you to join us in Singapore in 2027 for the first InnoTrans Asia. Let's build new connections, let's unlock new markets, and first and foremost, let's shape the future of mobility together. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hoffman. What a very inspiring welcome that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, InnoTrans Asia 2027 will serve as the central Pan-Asian transport technology trade fair, and today marks the official reveal of the expansion into this dynamic region. To set the tone for what lies ahead and to provide a regional outlook on the dynamic and evolving mobility landscape, please welcome Mr. T.C. Chew, Managing Director, Asia Arab, for the opening presentation. Mr. Chew.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, industry friends, and fellow leaders from across the Asia-Pacific region. It is a tremendous honor to be with you today, mark a truly exciting milestone for our industry in the region. The launch of the InnoTrans Asia, set to debut in Singapore in 2027, as highlighted by Doug earlier. Tremendous day, tremendous opportunity for us. For many of us, the biannual InnoTrans event in Berlin has long been a cornerstone of rail innovation globally. A place where idea, mobility is imagined together, and I have the privilege of attending InnoTrans over the years, and I have known the firsthand the energy, the insight, and the inspiration it brings. So, with a great pride that we now welcome this world-class platform to our region. The arrival of InnoTrans Asia is more than just a new event. It is a recognition of Asia-Pacific's growing status in a global hub for transport investment, innovation, and leadership. The creation of standalone InnoTrans event in Asia reflect the momentum that we built across the region and the opportunity we have shaped a more connected, sustainable, and resilient future. Asia-Pacific region is witnessing an remarkable dynamic growth in the infrastructure and construction industry. The BMI data for this quarter 2 in 20, forecasts that Asia-Pacific region construction industry will grow in real term by about 4.2% year on year. And for the next year will be 4%, if not more. The long-term projection paint an exciting picture indicating sustainable, stable growth and annual average rail increase of over 3.5% per year on year over the next decade. Asia-Pacific stand as global powerhouse in construction industry growth, both short-term and long-term. Data show that Southeast Asia markets such as Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, as well as Malaysia and Thailand, poised to lead the construction boom. My own journey and the role in which I have the honor of addressing you from also reflect the growing global significance of our Asia-Pacific region. I've recently, from Asia-Pacific, for Arab's global business leader to the managing director of Arab newly formed Asia-Pacific region, combining the previous East Asia and Australasia region as one of the direct response to the platform of profound transformation we see in the region. With over 6 decades of experience by Arab over the Asia-Pacific region, we understand the importance of local terms and knowledge by developing and fostering agile and dynamic level teams capable of sharing skill and working across different countries, and investing in training and mobility. We are addressing the skill deficit, growing demand, and technological expertise in delivering infrastructure projects across the region. The driver behind this enormous opportunity are varied and complex, but I did want to touch a few critical considerations. Asia-Pacific is urbanizing at an extraordinary pace. By 2030, nearly 60% of the region population will live in the city. This growth is not just about number. It is about density, complexity, and rising expectation for mobility. InnoTrans Asia created that platform for us to showcase how the industry is responding to those challenges and allow us to work together to generate that dynamic opportunity, not just in the Southeast Asia region, but across the whole Asia Pacific. So for railway transportation, this presents a clear opportunity. Urban rail system, whether it is metro, light rail, or commuter rail, it offers a tremendous amount of opportunity for us to excel. But beyond talking about railway to provide mobility and transport solution, change and uncertainty in geopolitics put pressure on organization, and particularly climate transition and seeing major economies retreating from the net zero commitment. Frankly, in rail transportation, we offer that solution, and I challenge you all to participate in Asia, InnoTrans Asia, to actually share your view, how we can actually help to actually save this fragile world by the way that we address the most efficient transportation in the business, that is rail transportation solution. Electrification of railway is quite significant and quite important, and we should continue to make sure that we look at across the region, whether it is in the Indo-China country where diesel transportation are still prevalent, the investment to allow us to transform to a much more energy efficient rail transportation solution by electrification. Now, digitization and digitalization continue to play a challenge, and I can see some significant opportunity for us. And again, once again, in the last, InnoTrans in Messi in Berlin, you can see some of these clever ideas of how the digital and AI can support the greatness of offering a much reliable and cost-effective solution towards looking at our rail infrastructure asset. That is, again, another opportunity where I would like to see a strong engagement during 2027 and how we can actually set the pace in Asia-Pacific through the support of InnoTrans Asia to create that platform. In terms of climate impact, obviously I've touched on a bit earlier, and the adaptation and create more resilient is a way of which we can share our ideas of how we can promote. And you can clearly see from last year InnoTrans and next year InnoTrans in Berlin that you will see that there are plenty of great idea, and I'd like to transfer those great ideas to be more closer to home in Asia Pacific if you engage yourself in 2027. So I'm pleading to you for your support, not just from Dirk, but I think that personally, as an industry player for many years, I think that this is an event that will transform Asia Pacific in a very, very significant way. And in terms of economy, you will never know what this opportunity will create for Asia Pacific. As you know, Asia Pacific is really the fastest growing economy in the global makeup, particularly in the investment of transportation. So Asia Pacific no longer just following the economic global trend. We are actually setting them. And the momentum that we are building, the opportunity before us is enormous. Let us seize this, and with collaboration and courage, and with the shared commitment to deliver a better journey for all, and support by InnoTrans Asia coming to this region, we can realize that vision and ambition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chu, for that, for all your insights into the region, as well as a very spirited delivery on that as well. Okay, and once again, ladies and gentlemen, those insights that you've just heard have really laid a very strong foundation for the conversation ahead. One that dives deeper into the opportunities, challenges, and innovations shaping mobility across Asia. It's clear that this region is not just about rapid growth, but as a matter of fact, it's evolving, and boldly, might I say. Now, we move from vision to dialogue as we bring together a distinguished panel of integrated urban transport leaders in our cities, and how a platform like InnoTrans Asia can support the development of transport systems in the future. So please join me in welcoming our distinguished panel for this panel discussion titled Future of Mobility, Advancing Sustainable, Reliable, and Integrated Urban Transport. Moderating the session, I'd like to bring back on stage Mr. T.C. Chew, Managing Director, Asia Arab. And joining him on the panel would be Mr. Yi Boon Chow, a Deputy Chief Executive, Infrastructure and Development, Land Transport Authority. Dr. Pradut Dutt, Group Chief Operating Officer, Prasarana, Malaysia. And Mr. Daniel Williams, Chief Executive Officer, Metro Trains, Sydney. All right, Mr. Chew, over to you.
Thank you very much. Please. Ladies and gentlemen, before us is a panel of very eminent rail transport operators or investor or promoter, builder of rail transportation system. Over the last few decades, you can see Asia Pacific improving, continue to actually address the situation relating to mobility. So I have a few questions to raise with the panel, and hopefully, you will engender the excitement as they have over the past decades in shaping some of the city transportation solution. So if I can start, maybe Boon Chow, you're right next to me. I will ask you to answer first. What does an integrated urban transport system mean to you? And how is your organizing advancing towards the vision of your city and the country?
Okay, thanks TC. Thank you everybody, nice to be here. For me, the integration of integrated urban transport basically covers two key areas. I think the first thing is your transport system must be connected, and it also must be accessible. This is the basic fundamental requirement that you need to achieve to make your urban transport system integrated. To do that, you must make sure your transport nodes and transport hubs are located at the location whereby the residential and commercial spaces are also there. And you must make sure these places of activities are well connected to your transport node. And that's one thing. The second thing is you must also make sure your other transport modes are also seamlessly connected to your main transport node. For example, your buses, your point-to-point transport, it's well connected to the trains, so that interchange or inter-mode transfer is seamless. And of course, the accessibility of these train stations must also be taken care of. You must make sure the train station is accessible by people who are able to get to the stations from their home quickly and comfortably, and also is accessible to people who are not so, for people like disabled or not able to walk to the stations by themselves. The second part that we need to actually also to look at is the first mile, last mile part of the journey, because it's not just the station itself and the surroundings around the station, but it's how to allow people to access to your station. And this first mile, last mile is always a very difficult problem to solve, because you need to make sure people around the stations are able to access properly. And this first mile, last mile is also one that is contributing a lot to the whole customer journey experience of the commuters, because if you can allow them to reach the station in a very comfortable manner and a hassle-free manner, more people will want to take public transport, and instead of being just integrated with other modes of transport, you're also integrated all the way to their place of activity and place of residential, for example. Yeah. So to me, these are the key factors to look out for when you talk about integrated urban transport. Yeah.
Thank you, Boon Chao. Dr. Dao, do you share your view, please?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Boon Chao has said. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, when we are talking about transport, when we talk about urban transport, we actually have to think, there's both private transport and public transport. I come from a city where private transport is still the dominant mode. And private transport also has got different categories. Like you have got cars, a big competition to Prasarana, to my organization, since we are the leading public transport operator, it's actually motorcycles. So motorcycles are also an important part. Then you also have got, you have the traditional taxis, and now you have got e-hailing. Each of them have got different characteristics. And then you have public transport operators like myself. We also have got trains, and we have buses. We run both of them. Now, when you are talking about integration, you have to talk about to see how all of them fit together. And to see how all of them fit together is something that takes a lot of work. The key is that the public should not have to experience any difficulty. So how do you make sure that the public does not experience any difficulty? By making sure that you solve those difficulties yourselves. As a public transport operator, I agree fully with, we have to take care of the first mile, we have to take care of the last mile, we have to take care of the train stations. Now, first thing we have got to make sure is that we have got to ensure reliability of our services. The public must be able to depend on our services, whether it's trains or buses. And that is one thing that we have embarked on. We have been quite successful in improving the reliability of our train services. Just for instance, in 2022, if you were to count about million kilometers between failures, we were at 80,000. That was soon after that we embarked on a program to improve our MKBF figures to 1 million by 2026. And in 2023, we had 130,000. In 2024, we reached 300,000. And in this year, we hope to reach 500,000. Now, what does that mean? That means that the number of incidents causing delays of 5 minutes or more must be less. In 2023, there were 117 incidents. Last year, there were about 80-something incidents. This year, until June, we have got 20-something incidents. So this is what we have to do to make sure that we improve reliability. And then how do we work? We also have got to work to bring people, because at the end of the day, train is still the most dominant public transport mode, at least in Kuala Lumpur. How do we bring the first mile, last mile connectivity? Yes, buses are there, but we all know that buses have limitations on first mile, last mile connectivity. We are looking into how we can work with others. We are working with e-hailing operators, but it's not so easy because e-hailing operators would rather do the whole journey themselves, to be frank about it. And so we have introduced what we call rapid on demand. It's essentially a midway between e-hailing and the traditional bus, where we have vans with 12-seater capacities at each of our, we plan to have it at each of our train stations. And as you are approaching your station, you can make a booking on your app. And then the app will tell you whether it's available or not. And once you have got a certain number, 2 or 3, for that particular route, the van will move. So this rapid on demand, we just introduced it, but it has taken off very well. For instance, on those equivalent routes, where previously we had traditional buses, we were having about 1,200 passengers per week. But when we shifted those to rapid on demand, we are seeing a 6-fold increase, so close to 10,000 per week. So we can see that if you come up with innovative services, the public will be willing to support those services. So those are the kind of things that we have to do. At the same time, we also have to look at people who do not rely on public transport. How do you ensure that the footpaths are not blocked by drains? How do you ensure that there's no fences between your train stations and the residences? Those are things, we do not have a direct role in it, but we have brought our influence to the Ministry of Transport for them to take it up with the Ministry of Housing, Local Government, and things like that. So, in short, it needs a lot of work.
Thank you, Dr. Dutt. Dan, I mean, you're operating one of the most modern, transport, Sydney Metro. There are a lot of technology there. How do you see, in terms of an integrated urban transport system meant to you?
Yeah, for me, building on what colleagues have said, it starts with ambition and it starts with kind of intent. So from a government perspective, how do we influence a major strategic transport plan that has a 15, 20-year horizon? So start with the end in mind. Why is that important? It's so important to get the structure in how you procure future contracts. So interoperability being very, very key for Sydney. And like, what do I deem as a integrated urban transport system? Definitely multimodal. And again, picking up what colleagues have said is the first mile, last mile is important, but it has to be simplistic. It has to generate connectivity. The ease of use has to be there, and ultimately the price point has to be good. So what have we learned in Sydney? We're bringing in the new extension, which was 15 kilometres of automated metro. So we now run 51 kilometres of an automated network. We have seen significant growth in land use stimulation, oversight development. We have seen massive precinct activation. So when you build the metro, it is an enabler really for addressing government policy and things like housing. So in Sydney, we have a real housing crisis at the moment. There just simply isn't enough houses. And what the metro has done is made houses accessible outside of the city because the system runs so reliably. It runs kind of at 99.9% day in, day out. And what that has enabled is people to be able to live further out, but still within reaching distance of the city. So from our perspective, I think the metro is an enabler. And where does it go to next? I think what we would like to see is a more holistic strategy for future builds in Sydney. So you'll be aware that the Western Sydney Airport Metro is about a year to 2 years away from coming into operation, and Sydney Metro West gets built in 2032. What we would like to see is the ambition to actually build an orbital route, so effectively you can move people in and around the Sydney network. So the real intent here really is to provide people with a safe, assured, reliable network which is simplistic, provides connectivity and open to all.
Thank you, Dan. Well, the first question that I've raised with the panel, from their response, is already giving us a lot of opportunity, excitement of what we can be debating about during InnoTrans Asia 2027, right? talking about network solution, talking about resiliency, talking about reliability. So for exhibitor and for developer and innovator of ideas, that is a platform you can showcase and excite what the panelists has highlighted that they are passionate about, because they want to deliver a better service, and how can we offer solution to enable them to achieve that. Let me move on to the next question. You see, there's much hype about digital technology in terms of general, also innovative technology in supporting the process of operation and maintenance. So what role do you think that from a digitalization perspective and sustainability perspective play in terms of your overall strategy in looking at how you would like to see those technology offer to you solution to enable you to achieve a better end result, if I may put it that briefly? Dan, maybe you want to start?
So I'm happy to start. So for me, it actually starts with how do you generate the ideas from the smart minds? What I mean by that is like when you look at the generations, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, and from our perspective in Sydney is how do we generate and bring that future talent through the system? I'm very fortunate where I've worked in this industry for 32 years and grown up all the way through, but there is lots of talent, lots of really good ideas at the moment can get suppressed by the barrier to entry getting into industry. So for me, it starts off with, recruiting very smart people who challenge the norm, always prepared to go further, always prepared to look at how do we explore AI, how do we bring in generative AI. But from an operator's, maintainer's perspective, kind of innovation is absolutely key for us. So from our maintenance windows, we only have 3 hours worth of engineering windows day in, day out. So we have to make that work. How do we make that work is by innovative technology. So we have very smart condition-based monitoring systems. We have train-borne systems that are able to measure the track, they're able to measure the overhead wire. And for me, it's about continuing that advancement. So how do you gradually walk back from the manual task where you have to send people into tunnels to do physical inspections? And we're exploring all kinds of options, things around putting drones in through tunnels to carry out inspections. And where do you move the boundary? And it's not just in maintenance. We're very blessed to have a GOA4 automated network which operates under CBTC, which gives us the capacity to run trains up to every 2 minutes, 40 seconds. But how much further can you test that boundary? How much further can you actually move the boundary to accommodate growth too? I think sometimes we're guilty of just looking at the now, and it goes back to my earlier point of we need to be looking out on the horizon 5, 10, 15 years on, and also looking outside of what other industry partners are doing. So we are the only automated metro in Australia, and we're very proud to be the owners, maintainers of the metro in Australia, but we're very aware that there's lots of very good ideas, very good sophistication in tools, techniques, technology that can be harvested, but it really starts with the people for me. How do we get the smart minds into the industry? How do we make it an attractive industry for people to join and actually drive the next generation of travel?
Fantastic. Dr. Dutt, do you share the same thing, or you have something, addition what you're doing in Pasarana?
No, that is definitely the way to go. People, in fact, when we talk about technology, we have to look at how technology is an enabler to help people, and just as an example, we have been running GOA4 for most of our lines. We are running GOA4. Only 2 of our lines are not GOA4; they are GOA2. But what has happened is that when we had this new target to reach to improve our reliability, we actually went back. And on our GOA4 trains, we actually place transit officers on board. So why did we do that? Because you want to make sure that your system is resilient. You want to make sure that your system recovers quickly. And very often, what you actually need is just to have something reset on the train itself. And that can be done much faster if you have got somebody on board. So you can say we have taken a step back, but when you look at our reliability statistics, by going on a step back, we actually improved our reliability. But nevertheless, we have got to complement it with technology as well. And so what we are doing is that essentially the same things that you are doing in Sydney Metro, we have to go to condition-based, we have to look at data analytics, we have to see how we can use data to actually catch problems before they arise. We are currently doing, we are taking baby steps on this issue. We have started on condition-based maintenance. We are doing wheel rail interface for our predictive maintenance. We have started with baby steps on this. We are looking at how switch machines, consumption of electricity on switch machines, how we can use that to predict. So there are a lot of things that needs to be done there. And actually, one of the things that when we look at InnoTrans Asia is that I hope there will be some amount of technology which is, how shall I say, more suited to this part of the region. Like very recently, when we are looking at our surge protection devices, we find that the EN standards themselves, because they were developed for a Western continental Europe environment, where you have got lightning days of 20 to 40 lightning days a year. We, in this part of the world, we have got about 200 lightning days per year. So EN standards are just actually the basic. How do you know, what are the standards which are relevant for Asian conditions? And that is something that, if I'm looking forward to seeing at InnoTrans Asia, that it's something even better for regional specific.
Fantastic, Dr. Doug. It's a bit of a challenge there. I'm sure it's all recorded for Doug to take it back and talk to the potential engagement. And I certainly see that even now in InnoTrans Berlin, there are much direct discussion because there are a lot of Asian rail expert and authority travel to Berlin to engage with the innovator and suggest to them some of the difficulty. I think what you just said, Dr. Tat, is perfect location for InnoTrans Asia to debate about some of the more challenging, different solution, particularly when we are now addressing quite challengingly by government, expecting a much better reliability of service. On that ground, Boon Chau, can you add a bit of your thought into this particular area and some of the challenges that you face?
In the past years, we noticed that our metro systems actually generate a lot of data. They generate a lot of operational data. They generate a lot of maintenance data. So some of this data, for example, the operational data, you can actually use them to improve customer experience. For example, the travel time for buses, travel time for trains, information about the service. If you can pump this to the commuters, it would help them to plan their journey much better. And with that, the customer experience will be much more, because they will expect, they will know whether the service is running or whether is he going to be on time, and you can plan the day better. As for maintenance data, actually, it is also important, because maintenance data, we notice that more and more, just receiving alarms from the systems are no longer enough to make the railway systems reliable. You must actually monitor the conditions of the respective systems to train them to have able to detect abnormality when the system is actually behaving differently, rather than waiting for the system to totally fail and send you an alarm before you react. It's already too late. You should actually be able to track the conditions of the systems, train them, and once there's a certain abnormality, you should go and take some action before the system actually fail. We noticed that this type of maintenance data will help in terms of improving reliability. Actually, for me, the key thing of digitalization requires two areas to look at, especially for Singapore, because Singapore LTA is the asset owner, and we have two operators who carry out the operations and maintenance. And as an asset owner, we also require certain data from the operator to make our asset management decisions. So more and more we feel that sharing of data with two operators are becoming more and more important. And to have the data to be shared between the operators and our LTA as asset owner there are two things that we need to get it right. First thing is the data standardization. We need to really work with the two operators to make sure that the data that we want from both of them are standardized, and so that we can use them to analyze and come up with the insights that we want. And the second thing is we should have a common platform, because having a common platform and everybody pump the data to this common platform, and this common platform is accessible by both operators and the asset owner, we can have this single source of truth in terms of the data, and we can each extract whatever insights that we want from this consolidated data bank. So we are in the process of working with the two operators on this common data platform and standardization of data in terms of maintenance data and operational data, so that we can improve the way where we manage faults and defects better, and try to preemptively manage the faults and defects before they become actually failures on the system. So this is one area that we're currently working with the two operators on, to try to consolidate the data into a single platform and allow the two operators to access this platform and do their own analysis, analytics, and come up with their own insights. And some of the analytics and models could be common across the two operators and LTA. If so, they can share the models. Rather than each operator generating their own model, then there's some duplication of efforts. And if the operators LTA have their different use cases and they want to have their own models, they can also use the same data set and generate their own models to understand what is happening in the system. So digitalization is actually a very important way to improve the system performance, but the difficulty part is really the standardization of data and the building of this platform. Because if the data quality is no good, your AI cannot work. So to have really AI work for you, you must make sure the data is clean and of good quality. So this is the difficult part that organizations have to take note of. Yeah.
I can see that there are many operators sitting in the audience here.
Yeah.
I have Sarah, who is from Asia, Era 1 from Bangkok, and we have also SMRT CEO here sitting in there, and SBS Transit. I'm sure they will share with us some different stories. So grab them during the coffee break to talk a little bit more, and give your feedback to Kim or to Doug about what possibly in InnoTrans Asia we can bring to discuss some of this approach and get the right partnership into the exhibition and discussion forum during 2027. Fantastic. I'd like to move on a little bit to talk a little bit about mobility as a service in terms of how do we leverage on technology to make sure that the passenger experience can be much better, and what in your vision you see that this kind of service, mobility as a service offer, and what you would like to see in terms of InnoTrans Asia 2027 bring about the debate on MAAS. If I can start with Dr. Dutt, you want to share your thought on this?
There is no doubt but we have got to move towards this mobility as a service. There's no doubt about that. But when we attempted to do it, we find that there are a lot of challenges involved now. How do you get the different parties together? Because this is something where each party would have something to gain, but before the gain, they try to think of what they will lose. So that is a factor that is quite challenging. We try to gather with e-hailing operators to see how we can have a subsidy element between for the passenger, as far as if they were to bring e-hailing passengers to our train stations. We find that many e-hailing operators do not want to work on that. At the same time, we also need to make sure that the payment systems are actually common through all. And we also need to make sure that the information that's going out to the potential passenger, the passenger doesn't want to look at each of the different segments. How do you make sure that the passenger, he can actually know all the transport modes are actually inside one particular app that he can look and he can make his decision on. A lot of data sharing is involved. You are a regulator, Boon Chau. You have got 2 people who are directly under you. I am just a mere operator.
No.
And so to get people to actually share data is not so easy. And it's challenging, no doubt. But perhaps when it comes to your question, TC, how can InnoTrans help? Maybe some useful use cases could be brought up where this has worked very well. Then it can maybe open the eyes of people. Because at the end of the day, it will require a policy decision because you have got to bring people together. It will require a policy decision of some sort. And at that policy decision, it will be best that it's informed by successful case studies. That's how I see a pretty good role for InnoTrans in that respect.
Thank you, Dr. Dutt. And Boon Chau, you have your thought on the MAS?
Again, I think for MAS is similar to just now what we discussed about digitalization. A lot of them requires a lot of data to be of good quality, and it has to be consolidated at a single source location so that this information can be shared both with both operators and also with the commuters, which is very important. And it's very important that they have this information for them to plan their journey and to understand whether for him to get to this point A to point B, how long is this going to take. In Singapore, we deposit the data that we have in terms of bus arrival timing in a place we call it the data mall, whereby we allow this data to be accessible by the public. So researchers or people who's interested to develop apps to make use of data can use this to come up with some useful application or use cases that they think the public might be keen to use, such as arrival timing and journey planner type of apps. But I agree with Dr. Dutt. We also need to control in terms of what is the experience to the customer, because we don't want the customers the need to access multiple apps just to plan a journey, which is also doesn't make it convenient for them. It's also something we should think about, whether should we have a consolidated app where all the travel decisions or travel information that you need can be found on this app, and the information is organized and integrated in a manner that is user-friendly to the customers and to the commuters, so that they can make their decision easy and fast. Yeah.
Thank you. And then from your perspective, from Australia or Sydney marketplace of view, what, do you see some of this possibility coming reality?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate to work in a contract situation where we have Transport for New South Wales, which is the parent company, government related, and Sydney Metro, who are the authority responsible for all of the metros that are either in operation like ours today or those that are in delivery and construction. Why is that important? It's important because it drives consistency in specification of the type of applications you'll be using across all metros. So you won't have a situation of maybe there's 2 or 3 different operators in Sydney, but they'll all be operating on the same level of application, the same level of information. So a customer travelling on a metro, it should be seamless. The operator that's operating should be invisible, really. But to actually help inform the information, to give people informed choices on how they can travel and influence how they can travel, I think much more work needs to be done in what is the end user's requirements. I think we're all guilty of rushing to a solution and perfecting applications that are there today. When we look at our customer segmentation, we have a lot of young people using the metro, and their needs are very different. It's almost instant, touch of the fingers, and you have a very different profile of customer, different levels of expectations. So for me, it really is starting with the end in mind. So understanding what your customer segmentation is today, what it's going to be tomorrow and into the future, and how do you make that simplistic? So how we started this session, we was talking around connectivity, simplification. It really should just be one app that covers all multi-modes across Sydney. And Transport are working very hard at that. It's not quite yet fully integrated. You've still got different systems that can tell you what the ferries are doing, what light rail is doing, what national rail is doing. But from a metro perspective, I think the opportunity is really rich. And how do you influence that is by ensuring that you put the specification into all future contracts. So that designs out anybody's individual, I'm going to take this application or I'm going to go down this path. It makes it consistent, but ultimately it should all be built around end user requirements. So how do you make that journey as seamless, as connected as possible? And what we have seen in Sydney is once the new line was extended, we realised that there was many different users that we didn't envisage. So we've really opened up the metro to very different journey patterns, and we've had to be very live to the different people that are using it, especially contra-peak, because now we run through the city section. There's a lot of people just travelling between city stations, and business people's needs are very different to somebody that's there for a tourist, there to see the Opera House or the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Their expectation levels, their tolerance levels are very different. So we're spending a lot of time really building customer profile, building that segmentation to ensure the overarching strategy actually encompasses all rather than just targeted at an individual. And the one thing I think colleagues mentioned, it has to be reliable, it has to be dependable. I think in some of the early days in Sydney, a lot of the real-time information wasn't really real-time and customers lost confidence. They got very disenfranchised, they got very frustrated with the process. So there's a lot of work that needs to go with the back end of the systems to ensure that the infrastructure is available to support multimodal transport in one place that is enabled to give you that door-to-door journey experience. So it should be invisible from my perspective, but a lot of work still needs to go in from a Sydney perspective to create that environment. And for me, it really starts with who is your end user and why, and what are their needs and expectations, and how do you tailor that with a sophisticated application that is very simple and easy to use.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you see this brief panel session discussion actually set the scene for InnoTrans Asia 2027, where deeper depth preparation discussion can take place during that 3 days event in Singapore. And I think that is an opportunity for us to start shaping some of those discussions so that at the end of the day, between the supply chain innovators, operators, and investor, we can come together with a common solution that actually serve our customer in the right solution. And I strongly believe that InnoTrans Asia can offer Asia Pacific those solutions that we desperately need. I got 5 minutes left because that clock is ticking and I'm getting a bit nervous. So I'm going to ask one last question, which is very personal view, and maybe a minute each so that you can respond, right? Looking forward into the next decade, what do you see as the most critical success factor to achieve a truly sustainable and integrated urban mobility? 1 minute each. I will start with Boon Chao.
Okay, just like I mentioned that to really have an integrated urban transport system, the first mile, last mile issue, we need to tackle it. And so to really do it, we are doing it, attacking it from a few angles. Firstly, we are building more covered linkages. We're going to build about 150 kilometers of covered linkages over the island so that people can access the respective transport hubs in a more comfortable way. We're also going to build more cycling paths. We're going to build up to 1,300 kilometers of cycling paths so that people can cycle to the respective transport hubs. But to achieve all this, we are even, if you heard, we are even thinking of having AV shuttles to shuttle people from their homes to the transport hubs. But to do that, there's some trade-offs. That means we need to take away some roads. We will need to certain roads to be moving the cars to drive on certain roads at slower speed. And we may even need people to detour a bit, drive a longer road to reach the destination because we need to take away some of the road space. So I think one of the key challenges is how to manage expectations of the stakeholders that they have to really take this trade-off into consideration and really allow these trade-offs to be implemented so that for the benefit of the whole commuter, the first mile, last mile experience will be a better one. So I think to me this is the key, is to manage the expectations from the other stakeholders that's using the roads, because Singapore, the road space is limited. Yep.
Thank you, Boon Chao.
Yep.
Dr. Dutt, 1 minute.
Essentially, we need to know what the customer really wants, what the customer really needs, as opposed to what we think the customer wants. That may be quite different, you see. Like even on the first mile, the last mile, where is the right bus stop for the customer? Where is the right stop? We think this is the right stop, but we find that no, customers may prefer something else. How do you get what the customer wants? Now, the only way to do that is actually basically through data. Because when we see that, when experimentation and data, these are the two things that are needed. So we need to be a bit flexible, and then so that we be able to find out what the customer really wants, and then we need to offer that to him. And for that, technology is quite important also.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Yeah, so just building on what colleagues have said, I feel there's a real opportunity to influence kind of government policy and procedure on this. So my point is, I think how I started off was being ambitious, being bold, and really look to the horizon as to what is in the art of the possible. And again, I think that's linked to some very smart minds, some very clever people to bring into the business to what my colleague Dr. Dutt was saying around, do we really understand what customer needs? And I think we need to challenge traditional thinking. And I think what we've seen in the metro, it is not just a metro, it's an enabler for economic growth. It really helps address the housing challenges that Sydney has, and we'll continue to address that. And equally, all the commercial, the retailing, all the economic hubs that sit out of the centre now into places like North Sydney. So for me, it's about how do we absolutely influence government policy and align the future of transportation to deliver that, and see that really this is an enabler and a key enabler that should be the backbone of everyone's futures going forward.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up to the end of this panel discussion. You have seen a demonstration, the importance of working in collaboration, in partnership to achieve, after all, our ambition of delivering a quality urban solution for what our commuter really want. The key challenges obviously is that we know that railway transportation solution is the most economic and most efficient way of delivering that service. But at the end of the day, in understanding the desire of our commuter, the first and the last mile, and how do we convert those people who are assistingly in certain urban city with the ease of using scooters and bike and things like that, and create that major congestion to that solution of jumping onto the station and taking the train to where they want to be is an important change structure. And I think, once again, I believe that if we play our card right in Asia, in InnoTrans Asia 2027, those topics can bring to the surface. And if we engage with the media to actually sell some of those understanding and appreciation, we can get engagement directly between the operator, the investor, the government, and the public at large to draw back the solution and understanding so that we can better serve them ultimately. So I'd like to ask, within the next couple of seconds, you give a big round of applause to the three panelists. And thank you so much. I'm smack on time. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists for a dynamic and forward-thinking discussion. I invite you to take your seats now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, from infrastructure and transport technology to sustainability and integrated urban systems, today's conversation showed us not only the complexity of mobility, but also its immense potential across Asia. As Mr. Chu had rightly pointed out, platforms like InnoTrans Asia are vital for catalyzing collaboration across the region and beyond. InnoTrans Asia will serve as the central hub for the Asian transport sector, bringing together industry leaders, innovators, and decision makers from Asia and the rest of the world. And where better to begin this journey than in Singapore, a city that embodies innovation, trust, and connectivity. With its strategic position between major markets, Singapore offers the ideal home for InnoTrans Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, we now mark the official beginning of this exciting new chapter with the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding that will bring together Messe Berlin and the Singapore Tourism Board in a shared commitment to shape the future of transport in Asia. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Ms. Ong Hui Hong, Assistant Chief Executive of the Industry Development Group Singapore Tourism Board, and Mr. Dirk Hoffman, Managing Director and Chief Operating Officer, Messe Berlin. Sir, ma'am, please take your seats. And I have the pleasure of officiating this. So please feel free to sign your memorandums of understanding. Once done, you may exchange them, sign each other's copies. And of course, to seal the deal and the partnership, please, a handshake. Ladies and gentlemen, warm round of applause. All right, thank you so much. You may now return to your seat. May I invite you to return to your seats? Thank you so much. And once again, this Memorandum of Understanding marks the beginning of InnoTrans Asia's journey in Singapore and in the Asia-Pacific region. So to everybody now watching us online, thanks so much for tuning in and being part of this big moment with us. There's a lot more to come, and we can't wait to share that with you. Keep an eye out on innotrans-asia.com. That's INNOTRANS-Asia.com. And follow us on LinkedIn at InnoTrans Asia for all the latest news. See you soon, and thanks again for being with us today.